City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Grover. Oh, she's not here. Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Burris. She's not here either. Okay. Alderman Fisk. Here. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Wynn. Oh, she's not here either. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderman Holmes.
Here.
6.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, March 11th, 2013 meeting of the Evanston City Council. The first item on the agenda is Mayor's public announcements, and the only announcement that I have is that Alderman Wynn, Alderman Grover, and Alderman Burris are at the, what is it called, Wally? The
National
League.
Congressional Cities Conference in Washington.
Learning how to be even better aldermen.
And they have been sending emails all day long, so they're learning lots of good things and asking questions as they learn.
Next is City Manager public announcements. Do you have any?
Madam Mayor, I do not.
Thank you. And City Clerk, do you have communications for us?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Just let everyone know. Just let everyone know that early voting starts in 2 weeks, the 25th of March through April 6th. The last day to register to vote for the April 9th election is tomorrow. So if you don't register by tomorrow, then you can do grace period voting and registration at 69 West Washington or the Skokie Courthouse. That when you do go to register, you then have to also vote at the same time. And that would be from the 13th through the 6th of April. And absentee, you can vote either absentee or you can vote in person, or the same thing with the absentee voting. As long as it's postmarked by the 12th, then you'll be able to do absentee voting as well. I think that is all. Any other information be on the website of the City Clerk's office. We'll give you the times and dates of all of the polling places. Early voting will be here in room 2200 from 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday, and 9 to 3 on Sundays, including Easter Sunday.
What? Really? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk. Next item is citizen comment. The first and only speaker on the agenda items citizen comment list is Margaret Tarr. There you are. And the next 3 speakers would be Gladys Breyer, Junad Rizki, and Padma Rayo.
Good evening. College students, senior citizens, African Americans, Latinos, foreigners, low income, and mentally fragile populations reside in apartments in the 900 block of Sherman Avenue near Main Street. There are apartments above the proposed space for the boxing studio and within 37 feet of the back door of the proposed boxing studio in my complex. Residents feel that the city of Evanston doesn't care that they are or will be disturbed by noise as long as empty stores are filled. And contrary to rumors, the First Bank and Trust branch office at 741 Main Street is not moving, so that space remains occupied. At its February 19, 2013 meeting, the Zoning Board of Appeals approved operation of a boxing studio from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 739 Main Street, with certain stipulations about mitigating noise. It was pointed out to the board that the city has an ordinance against noise before 7 a.m., but a board member suggested that any future noise violation could be addressed. The question is, what body would address that noise? It took almost a year of complaints about Revolution Spin, located at 904 Sherman Avenue, making noise before 7 a.m., before it was ticketed for the violation. When I reminded a police officer that it had taken that long before a Revolution Spin was ticketed, he said that officers could use their discretion in ticketing. I pointed out that racial profiling was a good example of officers using their discretion. The noise from Revolution Spin continues in spite of complaints. Complainants have been told that Revolution Spin is not in violation of any city noise ordinance. Residents, therefore, don't believe the city will resolve any noise disturbances that may arise from the boxing studio. A member of a group of city employed, and this is in quotes, thugs, that was not my term, that went to Moser's sewing studio when it was located at 906 Sherman Avenue, allegedly told Ms. Moser that she was getting me to call the police and complain about noise from Revolution Spin. And I have to ask, what kind of mindset is that would suggest that I, an African-American adult, would have to get permission from a white person before complaining about having my peace and quiet disturbed in my apartment? Officers responding to my complaints about Revolution Spin noise started bringing me copies of letters city staff had sent to Ms. Moser about the decibels of noise from Revolution Spin in Moser's studio not being that high. I did not live in Moser's studio. In December, after witnessing the noise from Revolution Spin while parked across the street, Alderman Wilson said he spoke to Revolution Spin staff and suggested that they install a material that musicians use to block out sound. Revolution Spin has not done that and continues to disturb residents with loud yelling and music for hours, 7 days a week, with classes starting at 8 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. To make matters worse, Revolution Spin sometimes opens its door during classes. Now, I'm not going to play this very long, but I just want you to listen to what we have to listen to. Not a good... We have to listen to music and yelling all the time. In response to my Freedom of Information request about noise allowed at Revolution Spin, I received an October 8th, 2012 letter from Stephen O'Sullivan.
Peggy, I do need you to wrap up. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. There is no, in his letter said, there is no description of produced noise allowed during activity at this establishment, referring to Revolution Spin. I am happy to hear, but also I find it interesting that Mr. Rivera's boxing studio includes stipulations about noise. Let's see what happens.
Thank you. Gladys, I think you're all old-timers, but I'm going to make the announcement anyway. Every speaker has 3 minutes.
I hope to keep within that boundary.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk to you today about renewable energy. Evanston is one of only a few cities in Illinois that chose to have 100% renewable resources for the electricity used by its residents. Months ago, this council voted to obtain 100% renewable energy for Evanston. We are about halfway through our current contracts, and approximately $3.5 million has been saved by our residents as a result. By the end of the existing contract, over $7 million will have been saved by Evanston's residents. This one action taken by you, this city council, has resulted in the city not only achieving its climate action plan goal of a 13% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, but exceeding it by over 30% by July of this year. Prices for renewable sources of energy are now competitive. As a board member of Citizens Greener Evanston, a volunteer community with close to 2,000 members, I strongly urge you to continue your support for Evanston's livability by maintaining your support for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and to maintain your position on 100% renewable resources for energy for our great and green Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janad Risky. At the last council meeting, I discussed wholesale water sales. My main point is no new contract should be signed until we understand the current operation and its profitability. I stress its profitability. Since I doubt we are making a profit, Wally had stated that he believes the two current contracts with the Village of Skokie and the Northwest Water Commission are making a profit. and he wanted no one in the room to leave without that impression. Since we are making a profit, can someone tell me tonight what that profit is? That is, what are we netting after expenses? That is, what is the profit on each 1,000-gallon unit sold to Skokie and the Northwest Water Commission? Also, can you provide Evanston ratepayers, or prove Evanston ratepayers are not overpaying, since the city takes $3 million yearly from the water fund to the general fund? It is not a return on investment, but really a backdoor property tax. I have been looking over the numbers from my December visit to the water department, and the numbers don't add up between some of the different funds. I would strongly suggest the council get an independent outside audit of the numbers and to determine the true profitability. I also suggest, since it is unlikely we can provide any numbers tonight, that the city manager and Mr. Stonebeck come back here in 2 weeks and present the public on really what is the current wholesale water sale profitability as a starting point of an independent outside audit. In closing, I missed the council meeting where the project to replace the battery-operated transponders for the water billing was discussed. My water bill for the last 3 cycles has been estimates, which leads me to believe my transponder is dead. While this is not an issue with me personally, let me suggest the city has an obligation to the public to inform the public that the website, on the city's website, that this is a problem. And why is it a problem? Because if this goes on for many cycles on some residents, and some residents have a problem with their water meter, it could accrue to huge bills. And that's clearly not in the public interest. It also may be against the law because of utilities. Utilities, I know the gas company and the electric company had to read your meters yearly. They can't continue to do estimates. So the city needs to understand if this project continues for several years, that you'll have many estimated bills, and that'll be a problem. It may even be a legal problem for the city, which I cannot answer at this time, but somebody else may. And I would guess, given that the city can't even run its own capital project to keep the meters in order, the question is, how will we run a $750 million project to sell water? Thank you.
Thank you.
Padma Rao, 2246 Sherman. My comments were approved by my attorney. In Brown v. Entertainment Merchants Association, the U.S. Supreme Court held, under our Constitution, aesthetic and moral judgments are for the individual to make, not for government to decree, even with the approval of a majority. On February 25th, your 7th Ward person, perhaps as retaliation against our fear of a closed-door meeting with her, asked white people to vote against my First Amendment right to speak. I submit that even an inactive lawyer should know such action is unconstitutional. I further submit that no means no. No to closed-door dealings with city officials, no to your intimidation, no to wasting tax dollars, no to your civil rights abuses against minorities, no to your bigotry, no. Your mayor interrupts, argues, and tries to silence us at nearly every meeting. I submit that her disruptions only seem to be against minorities with darker skin. Your record shows that you interfered even when I spoke about your electricity aggregation scheme. I submit that when you show no respect for the constitutional rights of minorities or for your own rule banning responses to citizen comment, then you deserve no respect from taxpayers whose civil rights you uncivilly violate. I submit that petitioning government for redress is neither disrespectful nor uncivil, but is a constitutional right. I submit that you disrespectfully waste tax dollars. Your 8th Ward member's wine and cheese bar involves taxpayers' funds. Your 8th Ward member recorded her animus against Veolia in the public record, which Veolia cited in its lawsuit against the city. Your 8th Ward member's role in the Davies case was cited in that lawsuit against the city. I submit that taxpayers can't afford to pay the price for foolish words and deeds of a public official when tax dollars could be better spent on youth programs, job training, and to help our neighbors keep their homes and feed their families. We object to your vote at Kendall sentencing over 24 mature trees to death for no reason and endangering pedestrians with an alley that dumps traffic onto the narrowest street. Your record shows that the Kendall developer's lawyer's letter states that Holland and Knight was hired to sue the city. Your records show that Holland and Knight represented the city. Illinois Supreme Court rules of professional conduct forbid a law firm from representing against its current or former client. Your record shows that your 1st Ward member's son works for Holland and Knight. The Evanston Patch reported that your first ward member was overheard assuring the developer's lawyer that your vote would be pushed through no matter what taxpayers say. You voted without discussing taxpayers' concerns or the city code's requirements for tree protection and traffic safety. In Nevada Commission on Ethics v. Kerrigan, the U.S. Supreme Court held that when a council member's campaign manager was a paid consultant on a project, that council member was forbidden from both pushing and voting on the matter. I submit that your first ward member's push and vote for the Kendall project when her son's law firm was hired by the developer is likewise illegal. Protect the Kendall trees.
Thank you.
B.K. Rao, 2246 Sherman Avenue. My comments were approved by my attorney. I submit that by watching the February 25th council meeting, one can see how low the city council went to stop citizens from speaking. First, the mayor interrupted, argued, and shut off the microphone. Then, Ms. Grover asked a group of white people to vote to take away the First Amendment rights of a minority citizen. I submit that such unconstitutional actions made me wonder whether Ms. Grover is really a liar. I suggest that you all read and obey the Constitution. A majority cannot lawfully vote to take away the free speech rights of a minority. I submit that a politician may run a smear campaign against another politician, but she cannot attack a private citizen for exercising constitutional rights. I submit that your failed attempts to silence minority taxpayers raise concern for a cover-up of the truth. The Evanston Patch reported that your first ward member assured the Kendall developer's lawyer that your vote would be pushed through no matter what taxpayers say. You voted for Kendall resolution without any discussion of taxpayers' concerns. You said nothing about the impact of killing over 24 trees. You said nothing about the city's liability in approving a dangerous alley. You did nothing when you were made aware that Holland and Knight was hired by the developer, even though the same firm represented the city. Your own records show that your first ward member's son works for the same firm. Your 8th ward person pushed her wine and cheese bar at taxpayers' expense. She showed hostility against Viola in the public record, which Viola cited in its lawsuit against the city. The complaint in the Davies case cites her actions leading to that lawsuit against the city. I submit that taxpayers cannot afford to pay for the 8th ward person's words and deeds. I submit that allowing such actions is a breach of fiduciary responsibility by this council. Finally, this council should protect the trees, especially the Kendall trees, so we can all breathe better. The truth is, if we can't breathe, we can't live. We want to live. I shall return.
Thank you.
I just exercised my rights.
Next is Carolyn Murray. I apologize, I can't read this one, but someone who wants to speak on the Evanston Township issue.
Bonnie Wilson, yeah.
Bonnie, what has happened to your handwriting recently, or my eyes? It could be either one. Nate Kipnis and Betty Esther. Could be me.
Carolyn Murray, 1930 Gray. I come bringing some...
Carolyn, you got to lift the mic up.
Oh. Oh, yeah, she was short. Carolyn Murray, 1930 Gray. I come to bring some gifts from the State of the Union address in Washington, which I was privy to the invitation by Congresswoman Schakowsky. For you, Mayor Tisdale, I have a copy of the picture of Justin that I showed in the
thank you.
gallery before the Secret Service threatened to arrest me.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I didn't know we had pins for Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Thank
But
you.
that's why I brought one for you.
All right.
Okay. The pen, as just to fill everyone in, is from the National Mayors Against Illegal Guns. As we already know, Mayor Tisdale has signed for Evanston for a supporter to the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. The ribbon that I have given to Alderman Holmes was the ribbon that the families wore in the gallery for representing the families of survivors that represented Washington during the Mayors Against Illegal Guns sessions and the subcommittees, as well as during the State of the Union. I'm here because it has been 3 months since Justin was killed. And after my Washington trip, upon my return, after meeting the president on Friday, there were shots fired down the street from the house. And I was alarmed to hear the shots again coming from another direction, not my normal target practice neighbors who launched a gun buyback to get those guns off the street. So the growing concern about the guns is still an issue for me. After meeting diplomats in Washington, Michelle Obama, First Lady, the staff and delegates from Mayors Against Legal Guns, that would be Mayor Bloomberg's project as well, Lisa Madigan, and President Obama himself looking me directly in my eye, telling me that if there was anything that we needed of him to aid into getting the guns and any events that he wanted to sponsor, to call him. He made sure that I had his contact information, and he wanted to reiterate that he was 100% supporting us in getting the guns and the violence under control. He said that he heard about Evanston, which I don't know if that's good or bad coming from President Obama. Most recently, the investigation, as you know, is still pending, but the recent phone call that I received from Detective Wilson sending me on what I consider a telephone goose chase just to report some new evidence that related to my son's case was very upsetting. I can tell you that I currently contacted Crime Stoppers that will assist with flyers and a $1,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest for my son's case, as well as St. Sabina, Father Flager, their organization offers $1,000. I will personally give $1,000 of my own money to aid in a reward. These organizations will help and assist with the investigation, but they will also need Evanston's permission to do that as well, to come into our community to aid with that as well. I spoke with the FBI. I have a complaint case that is filed with the most recent Twitter and Facebook harassment that my family has received. The FBI has taken an official complaint case, and they are willing to involve themselves into getting the follow-up necessary for manpower on this investigation if Evanston allows them to come on their behalf. I just want to follow up because I was privy to a meeting at St. Sabina with Father Flager and Superintendent McCarthy. It was with families whose murders were unsolved. It was more informative. It wasn't an attack against it. It's just basically coming together with families that more on an informational basis of what they can do to get the crime solved, or what information that they need, or any leads or any current things that they can do. It also, he had announced a policy, which I think that is important, because prior to coming, I wasn't sure exactly how many unsolved cases there were in Evanston. But my most recent account, which was very alarming to me, I counted 32. 32 unsolved cases. So that's 32 families out there feeling, and what I have only, just from Justin's death alone, I have been contacted by at least 2 families indirectly saying that they feel that they don't have that level of communication. What Superintendent McCarthy announced at this meeting at St. Sabina Church was a policy that they reassured all of the family victims that on the day of the murder, they would be contacted. They would also contact them within 30 days, 3 months, and 6 months, and annually a year. I think that that is only fair, something that Evanston should consider. I would never thought that I would ever have to make a plea to have something like that go into policy. However, with this just recently happening to me and my family, and having other families indirectly contact me with the same concerns.
Carolyn, I do need you to wrap up, sorry.
I think it's something that should be considered, and I am finished. So these ideas, again, that I bring to you, I am open to discuss, but I think that they should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Tisdale. I'm Bonnie Wilson, Evanston Township Assessor, and I'm just here to remind the taxpayers that the deadline for appealing their assessments, as everybody knows, we've been reassessed every 3 years, and this is the year that Evanston taxpayers are being reassessed. And that appeal has been extended to Monday, March the 25th, and on the letters that everyone received, it said March 22nd. You're welcome to call the Evanston Township Assessor's Office for an appointment. I'm encouraging people not to walk in, because we'll just give you an appointment and tell you to come back. And we are getting booked up for till March 25th. We can also, if you don't want to come in for an appointment, we can appeal for you online, because we have a special program that has all the comparables for your property, and that program is only given to we only have this program have access for the Cook County Township Assessors have access to this program that gives you the comparables of properties in your neighborhood. So I'm encouraging everybody to call our office at 847-332-2465. We are at 846 Dodge at the corner of Dodge and Main. And I just also want to let people know that the increases, that the condo assessments have been increased about 5.8%. However, the single-family homes have decreased in assessments, which is 7.8%. So any condo owners that hear this message, I'm encouraging them to call my office. If you have a small building under 20 units, that we can help you, or else contact your attorney and have them appeal for you before March 25th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Either one of you.
Hi, I'm Nate Kipnis, 9507 Central Park. I'm on the board of directors of Citizens Greener Evanston, and I was here last year to talk to you guys about voting for green power, and I mentioned that would be the easiest vote you would ever do, and you'd have a great night's sleep, and I hope you did. And in the meantime, every family in Evanston on average has saved $264 by going green. It's also helping brand the city, and the city is getting a great reputation for this, and so we see things like the Walgreens coming to town, specifically because of all the actions that we're doing along these lines. So I would recommend that we go for 100% renewable plus trying to get some additional local energy efficiency work out of the contract. And the other thing I'd like to say is I know some people are against cutting down trees, and they were, one of the things with the green power is that you can opt out, and I know they opted out, and in fact they're for dirty power, which actually kills more than 24 trees. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betty Esther. I stay at 2031 Church Street. I'm here tonight, and I wanted to thank those that sponsored the Citizen Network of Protection event on March the 3rd, especially Alderman Peter Breakaway, Alderman Dolores Home, Black Men Against Violence, Moms Save Our Sons, Nation of Islam, Peace Pioneer of Evanston, and the Colored Network of Equality and Fairness, and College Sudden Writing Candidate. And also the encouragement words that I received from Alderman Grover and Alderman Wilson was surprising, really picked up my day. We felt that the Citizen Network felt that our goal was to have at this event was to start people thinking and start a conversation. We feel that goal was met since the members of our group has been approached by members that attended the event and wanting to know, are we going to show the film again? Are we going to discuss it? That is something that we are working on. We will be discussing it and showing the film. The film was titled Justifiable Homicide, Black Youth in Peril. It was a study of the killing of blacks throughout the American history, from slavery to now. In addition, the Citizen Network of Protection support the more laws for gun control, but most of all, what we feel that the laws we have now, and even the new laws, that they need to be enforced by law enforcement at all levels, the federal, state, and local, to keep the guns out of our community. Having a law that sits on a book, on a shelf, and it is never enforced will not stop the kids from having access to gun or to drugs. We need to have those things out. Where before the killing of a young man and the discussion that went around the community was about family members and stuff and views and things, we also saw that in that film that says you need to discuss and look at, we are our brothers, we are all brothers. And as Mrs. Jow wrote, and hopefully her piece will be published in the round table, when the death wagon comes, it comes for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First item on the consent agenda is your request to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 25, 2013. The Administration and Public Works Committee met this evening and asked you to approve the February 24 City of Evanston payroll, $2,702,758.10. City of Evanston bills also need approving. March through March 12, $2,772,227.99. Credit card activity for the period ending January 31 totals $96,188.50. The committee asks your approval to authorize the manager to execute a contract for professional consulting services for the 2013 HVAC improvement project to DBHMS for a total cost of $72,804. Funding is from the 3 recipients of this. That includes Police and Fire Headquarters, Levy Center, and the Fleetwood Jourdain Center. The committee also asked you to approve the estimated annual user charge for 2013 with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for disposal of sludge generated as part of the water treatment process in the amount of $343,732.27. Your approval is also requested for payment of the 2013 Fire and Public Works membership fee to Northeastern Illinois Public Safety Training Academy in the amount of $25,042. We also ask your approval to authorize the manager to execute a contract for the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice to Mullen and Lonergan Associates in the amount of $24,990. This requirement is given to us by HUD and CDBG Home and NSP2 grant funding. We ask your approval for the purchase of 3 replacement vehicles for the Utilities Department in the amount of $529,558.08. A Ford truck from Curry Motors, a vehicle IH from Prairie Archway International in the amount of $124,177, and an IH 7400 from Standard Equipment Company in the amount of $329,000. Funding is from Water and Sewer Fund accounts. We ask your approval to authorize the manager to renew the sole source agreement with the Accela for the city's Accela Information Software System, which is known as PAL, in the amount of $128,000, a 2.2% decrease from 2012 costs. This agreement covers the period from March 15, 2013 through March 14 of next year. The committee requests approval also to authorize the manager to execute a 1-year renewal of the service agreement for the Schneider Building Automatic System at 8 city facilities with Schneider Electric, formerly TG Solutions. No increase from 2012 in the amount of $23,640. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute a 1-year renewal of the 2013 sole source annual service agreement for building automation systems at the police department and police headquarters and the 911 center with Siemens Building Technology in the amount of $25,022. We ask your approval also for change order number 1 in the amount of $59,262 for the 2012 washroom renovation project at the Civic Center. This will increase the current contract from $284,880 to $344,142. This is due to deteriorating floor in one of the spaces. We ask your approval to accept and place the year-end 2012 financial report on file. I'm not sure if anybody wants this off the agenda for a report. We had one in committee. Okay. Leave it on. Okay. A6, we ask your approval to authorize the manager to execute and negotiate any additional terms for a collective bargaining agreement with the Evanston Police Sergeants Association, affiliated with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council, effective January 1, 2013 through December 31, 2013. Approval will ratify the tentative agreement reached between the parties throughout the negotiation process. We ask that you adopt Resolution 16R13, which amends the Plan of Operation and Governance for the City of Evanston's electricity aggregation program, which will allow greater flexibility in regards to terms in attaining prices in order to get the best prices for Evanston residents. Let's see. We recommend that you approve Resolution 14R13, which authorizes the manager to sign notification of grant awards in the amount of $27,960 to fund and operate the long-term care ombudsman program for the city of Evanston. Next, we ask your approval to authorize the apartment lease for renewal at 1223 Simpson Street to Norma and Nolan Ryan in the amount of $1,000 a month for a one-year term. Next, Ordinance 29013. We ask that you approve moving introduction of this ordinance, which amends subsection 346B of the City Code to increase the number of authorized Class B liquor licenses to 18 and thereby permit issuance of a license to Furcas LLC, doing business as La Maquina Cafe at 1620 Orrington Avenue. Next, we have Ordinance 30013. This is for introduction and amends subsection 346C of the City Code, increasing the number of Class C licenses to 30 and thereby permit issuance to Coast Central Corporation, doing business as Coast Sushi Central at 2545 Prairie Avenue. Next, Ordinance 32013 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Next item is Ordinance 34013 for introduction. The Parking Committee and Transportation Committee and staff and Administration Public Works recommend that the council consider this ordinance, which amends Title 10 of Motor Vehicle and Traffic Residents-Only Parking Districts, adding District 16, the east side of McDaniel, 1315 to 1341, from Dempster Street to Greenwood Street to 24-hour daily, 7 days a week. Is this going to be leave it on? Leave it on. Do you want to suspend the rules? Okay. You're welcome. Next is Ordinance 9013. This has to do with the restaurant at 623 Howard. It is off the consent agenda and will be brought to our next meeting, March 18th. Let's see. This is for action. The Transportation Parking Committee and staff recommend council adopt 23013, which amends Title 10 Motor Vehicle and Traffic Restricting Parking on the south side of Harrison from Green Bay west to the first north-south alley. This is for action tonight, was introduced on February 25. Next, relating to parking on Harrison Street, Eastwood Avenue, and Davis Street, this Ordinance 24013 amends Title 10 Motor Vehicle and Traffic, adding residence parking only District 6 on Harrison Street and Eastwood Avenue, and removing residence-only parking District 5 on Davis Street. Next, Class Y liquor license. The council is requested to approve the adoption of Ordinance 25013, which, if adopted, will amend Class Y liquor licenses to permit the sale of alcoholic liquor, that is spirit, wine, and unrefrigerated beer for off-premise consumption. This was introduced at the February 25 meeting. Next, under Planning and Development. Planning and Development Committee recommends approval, as does the Preservation Commission, that you adopt Resolution 11R13, authorizing the law firm of Winston & Strawn, LLP, to represent the City of Evanston at no cost as amicus curiae in the case of Albert Hanna and Carol C. Maraca versus the City of Chicago et al. In support of the City of Chicago's landmark ordinance. The committee requests your approval to introduce Ordinance 2603.
Should take that off the consent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, take that off the agenda. This is the 739 Main Street. Next, the Plan Commission, let's see. This is off the consent agenda. P3, Ordinance 4013, the chair will address this. Next, P4, amendment for special use for tennis scoreboards at 2250 Sheridan Road. If adopted on November 12 for scoreboards at 2250 Sheridan Road, to permit an increase in size to the end signs located on the large scoreboard. The new proposal should not increase the view of the scoreboard from Sheridan Road. This is for introduction. Next, recommend adoption of Ordinance 22013, granting a major zoning relief to convert 7 required off-street parking spaces into an outdoor seating area and bicycle parking at Smiley Brothers Restaurant and Brewery for a total 0 off-street parking spaces. The P6, Ordinance 2013, is off the consent agenda. It will be addressed by the chair and brought back on March 18th. Also, the same for P7. Then we move to Human Services. The Township Supervisor recommends that the City Council approve the Township of Evanston bills, payroll, and medical payments for the month of February in the amount of $242,564.35. For introduction tonight, the Human Services Committee and staff recommend City Council adopt Ordinance 28013, which amends City Code of 2012 as amended, assigning a 4-year term of service for Americans with Disability Act Advisory Board members and permitting the mayor to reappoint members for a second term. Approval of the Human Services Committee and Public Art Committee recommend City Council approval of 10,000 Ripples, a public art piece project organized by Evanston artist Indira Fritas Johnson in conjunction with the nonprofit organization Changing Worlds. No city funding will be utilized for this project. Item 01 under Economic Development is off the consent agenda and will be brought to the Council on March 18th. The Mayor has no appointment recommendations this evening, and therefore, Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Seeing that no one seems to want to discuss it, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes. Alderman Holmes, are you chairing Administration and Public Works tonight?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right.
A12, Ordinance 32-0-13, creating a bring your own bottle liquor license classification. Liquor Control Review Board recommends creation of a new bring your own bottle liquor license class. The committee discussed this and asked that we keep it in committee until the law department will bring us back, I believe, some more information. So that's... Oh, and the one recommendation was that there would be no charge for restaurants that already had a liquor license if they would want to add the bring your own bottle to their establishments.
I don't think that'll be a problem. I don't think there'll be that many, but...
Okay. So that will stay in committee, and I guess we'll bring it back on the first of the next meeting. Not sure when.
That's fine.
Okay. The next one is off the agenda is A14, Ordinance 9-0-13, authorizing lease of the city-owned property at 623-627 and a half Howard Street to the Peckish One LLC. Staff recommends approval of Ordinance 9-0-13, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a commercial lease with an option to purchase a city-owned real estate property located at 623 and 627 and a half Howard. This will be held over for consideration until the March 18th meeting. And that concludes the AP&W report.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Fisk, Planning and Development.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Going to P2, which is Ordinance 26013, granting a special use for commercial indoor recreation facility at 739 Main Street. It's for introduction. Zoning Board of Appeals recommends adoption of Ordinance 26013, granting a special use permit with conditions to mitigate the possible noise impact for a commercial indoor recreation facility at 739 Main Street, a vacant storefront for a boxing studio. The committee recommends introduction.
Second.
Alderman Wilson.
And the only reason I had this taken off the consent was I wanted to request that it be scheduled for action on the 18th of March, based on the way our calendar is. Otherwise, the action wouldn't be taken until, I think, well into April. So with that, I'm requesting introduction and that the matter be set for the 18th for action.
City Manager.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, as you know, we're starting in the regular schedule. What I would propose is that if the council is willing, we would take all items that would otherwise require a second reading, have them all be on next Monday night. So unless there's an objection, I think it's unusual, but it's a regular meeting. There's no reason under the council's rules that couldn't take place. So there will just be a consent calendar then, in addition to the special orders of business next week.
Alderman Rainey. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice again. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I'm just thinking that there should be a move to suspend the rules to do that, because our regular practice is a reading 2 weeks after an introduction. Unless we do a move to suspend the rules and introduce all on the same night and approve all on the same night, I think it's very similar doing it the next week. So, I mean, the Howard Street items are being held, or they've already been introduced. I'm just suggesting that maybe our attorney would like to speak to that.
Well, perhaps I can move to suspend the rules to allow this to be heard on the 18th for action. Would that be acceptable, Mr. Corporation Counsel?
Madam Mayor, members of council, Mr. Clerk Green, grant for our Corporation Counsel, that is fine. It's really an agenda management issue, but obviously in an open forum like today, if you were so inclined for agenda management to suspend rules and do that, you can do that.
Okay, so I move for introduction tonight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to introduce it tonight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I would move to suspend the rules to allow the matter to be heard on the 18th of March for action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to hear the item on March 18th for action. City Manager.
Yes, Alderman Wilson, would this extend to all other items that are introduced, or you just want to focus on the one that...
I was going to make a second motion.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, just in case anybody had an issue.
All right, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
What are we voting on?
This is for...
To suspend the rules to allow this particular matter to be heard on the 18th, only this one.
Alderman Tindem?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
The motion passes.
All right, I would also move to suspend the rules to allow any other items which are introduced tonight to be heard for action on March 18th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules again. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Well, yeah,
What?
I mean, there's
Do what?
a bunch of things.
There's a bunch of stuff for introduction
There,
today.
City Manager, would you like to read the list of?
No.
Do we need-
No need to read.
No. Yes, I'm not.
So, Madam Mayor, the items that would be included in this new motion would be item A10, item A11, item A13. So would not include A13, all right. P2 has already been dealt with. P4.
Did you do A14?
A14 was a previous action already, so that A14's already been, will be considered next week. H2, and that would be all.
Okay, so we're voting to include the list the city manager just read. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Tindem?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey? Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
6-0, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Alderman Fisk?
Yes, P3, Ordinance 4013, amending portions of the zoning ordinance relating to certain legal nonconforming residential uses. The Plan Commission and City staff recommend adoption of proposed Ordinance 4013, amending the zoning ordinance to permit a process similar to the minor variance process be implemented for 1 to 4 family residential legal nonconforming uses that allows the zoning administrator to determine if such nonconforming uses can be expanded by increasing the structure's bulk. This was for introduction, but we decided to hold it in committee, actually send it back to staff for revision from a minor variance to a major variance, among other discussions.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
It does.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Then I believe we are at call of the wards, beginning with Alderman Tindem.
No report tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
I have no report, but I would like to make a reference to the legal department, and that has to do with the matter we just discussed. I do not believe that the spacing of introduction and action items that are ordinances is an agenda management issue. I believe it's part of the council rules. And while I have absolutely no problem suspending rules and making things more speed up, I don't think it should be dismissed as an agenda, issue. Management issue. I think it's a council rule, and I like the way it is because people can count on it. And so I think we did the right thing tonight by suspending the rules to move up introduction items to action items. But I don't like it just to be dismissed as management.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to thank everyone who turned out for the ward meeting in the snow, including city staff. We had a real good turnout and a lively discussion. And I wanted to make sure, Wally, that you thank all of the city staff for coming out, because that was a difficult evening, but really appreciated their participation. I also want to remind everyone who was responding to the Dog Beach meeting and who placed comments on Engage Evanston that that is now closed, and so we're going to be meeting with staff and reporting back to those who participated and to the general public about the improvements at the Dog Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a reminder to the residents of the Second Ward that this Thursday, March 14th, we'll host our regular monthly ward meeting starting at 7 p.m. At the District 65 building. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to remind the residents of the 5th Ward that our regular ward meeting will be held on the 21st, and that we will have all the candidates from both District 65 and 202. And I think the same thing will happen at the ward meeting in the 2nd Ward on the 14th. We'll also have the township supervisor candidates as well. And I want to make a reference. I'm not sure, City Manager, this should go to the police department, but to follow up on one of the recommendations that I think I heard Mrs. Murray say in terms of a policy to see if we have one or don't have one in terms of follow-up with families with unsolved cases. I think the example she used was 1 month, 3 months, a year, to find out if we have something like that, and if so, we need to let people know that, and if not, we need to develop one. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, do you have a motion?
I do. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel, real estate, litigation, and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session, and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, C5, C6, C11, and C21.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.